Greetings, my name is Brother Herman of MakeEmSeeTheTruth.org. We are a nonprofit organization who has been commissioned by our Holy Trinity to be used to restore values back into our nation's lost, the communities less fortunate. These are the people, the individuals that are walking around without knowledge or without the correct informations to operate through life in. We're going to be used to be funneling the correct tools and knowledge or correct informations back into these diverse nations by three different areas. That the first area will be spiritual, the second will be the legal, and the third will be the medical areas, because these are the three vital areas that, if not operated in correctly, will only result in a lot of heartache and misery, which is the same thing as mischief and wrongful malpractices, wrongful convictions, and spiritual poverty. We want to be used as this part of the solution instead of be continuing as the part of the problem. We had to grow tired of being part of the problem in order to cry out for the assistance and the help into transforming into becoming part of the solution. So we know that it is a process that we have to go through, as each individual has their own respective processes. We want to be used to minister to the process of each individual that we are fortunate enough and blessed enough to cross their paths with, as they grow in their process, as we grow in our process. We're going to call for the assistance to come from the communities most fortunate, and that are those who have already received these correct tools, these correct coping skills, these correct perceptions of how to see life, the correct perspectives, the correct thinking patterns, which leads into the speaking of life instead of the death over their lives, over each other's lives. We're going to call for you to assist us, most fortunate, by going to the MakeEmSeeTheTruth.org's website. On the home page, you're going to see a red link or a red button there, and we're going to ask that you click on that link and go to the donation site and give what you can. Just know that when you do, we're going to use this money to open up phone lines, open up more phone lines, and create writs, petitions, and motions that will help lessen the wrongful convictions that are going inside of our prison systems. Know that we mean what we say and we say what we mean, and we are only going to give back that which was freely given, and that is the whole truth and nothing but the truth, which keeps us free when we receive and operate in it. But we must become tired of self in order to cry out for that which is we know as the birthright. We must become tired of self in the world's ways before we can even attempt to even think about trying another man's or another being's ways. And in this case, we're talking about the highest way, which is the way of the Holy Trinity, our Father God, our Lord Jesus, and the Holy Spirit. We want to give back that which works, not that which is temporary. We want to give back that which is lasting, and that is the truth. Facts can be manipulated. Facts can be twisted. Facts are just like reality. Your reality may not be my reality. My reality may not be your reality. But the truth is God's reality. And if we operate in God's reality, we're going to find ourselves in a more healthier, a more refreshed, a more useful state of while we go through this thing called life. Now, we're lessening and shortening these videos down so much so that we're going to skip telling you what we've done in the past. You already know what we've done in the past, because if you've made it this far, you can see the itinerary and the rundown, the list. So now what we're going to do is just tell you where we're at. And where we're at is the second composition, Series 1, the end of Series 1, which is Part E. We're going to be answering the frequently asked questions. We're going to be answering these questions because these are the questions that are being asked, and they're not receiving the proper responses. They're not receiving that which is satisfactory. They're not receiving that which is fulfilling. They're only receiving a partial truth, a quarter of a tape, a half a tape, or 3/4 of a tape. At Make 'em See the Truth, we're going to play the whole tape, and that is why we're going to give you nothing but the truth. So help us God. Why? Because if we give you half of anything, you will be always coming up and finding yourself lacking, coming up short. And we do not want you to walk around in life short, because we don't want to walk around in life unempty or half full. We always want to be used to do the work of God. We want to do the business of God. Why? Because if we put God's business first, He'll put our business first. This is something that must be learned. This is not something that is freely given, unless you've already received it and you know how good it is and you want to give it back. Today's question is, why don't we value our women? Why don't we value our women? We're going to answer this into its entirety. We want to answer it so much so that we want you walking away with knowing in its fullness. You don't have to go around questioning man ever again, women and boys I'm talking to, because grown men already know the answer to this question. We're talking to the men that haven't yet fully developed, and we're talking about the teenagers who are thinking that they're men, but they're not quite there yet. We're talking about the underdeveloped man, or the immature being of the male. We want to focus this question on in that area of our community. Why? Because there's too many of us walking around and not valuing that vessel that God created to be more than just a stepping stone, or a rug that we step on, or a punching bag that we may punch on, or a purse that we may abuse or misuse, or a wound that we mistreat, or whatever the case may be, because our women are very precious, and they're precious to the point where God used them as a tool to show us His love through first. We first experience God's love through our mothers. How do you know this? We know this because no matter what you think, no matter what you say, no matter what you do, there's only going to be one person generally standing by your side, no matter what the cost. And that is your mother, our mothers, my mother. I may lose a female counterpart, a co-worker. I may lose a girlfriend. I may even lose a wife. And I may even lose a daughter. But I will never lose my mother. And I'm talking in the general sense, because there's an exception to the rule for everything. But when Brother Herman speaks, he does not speak towards the exception of the rule. Brother Herman speaks towards the general conception, and sometimes the general misconceptions. And in this case, it's both. And so we want to touch on why God started with the mom, why God started with our mothers to show us His love. And if we start here, then we'll gravitate to the full answer. If we start here, it'll take us to where we are needing to go. God says unconditional love is called agape. When you break down agape love, which is what God is, it's the only love that agape love can be started in the spirit. God is the spirit, so all things start in the spirit. Well, love has 3 different components, or some say even 4. But we do know that there's 3 for sure, and agape was one of them. Erotica or erotis is another. And then you have the brotherly love. These are the 3 different forms of love that we operate in, but we can rarely operate in agape love, which is the unconditional love, until we come to an end of ourselves and come into the presence of God, or have the presence of God come back into us. It is a synonymous action, and it will take place simultaneously, but we'll talk about that later. That is a totally different subject matter. What we are talking about is how to gain the ability to love unconditionally. And this is the essence of God. So therefore, I have written a poem that says woman or women, the essence of God. And why do I say that? Because God first used woman to demonstrate his love, the agape, unconditional love, through. We first feel it through our mothers when they stand by our side, no matter how many times we find ourselves coming up short in life. Every time we look around, our mothers are standing right there. No matter how many times we fall, we always have a place to go. No matter how many times we land ourselves in captivity, the mom's always sending that check. They might even come up short in the rent and miss a light bill payment in order to see that you have some woo-woos, wham-and-whams, and honey buns. They may even skip eating a couple of meals to make sure that we have. The mom is always going to make sure that the child eats. She is not going to let harm come towards her child. That is unconditional love. God operates in the same way. So if this is the case, then the next level of love that we feel God's love coming through, or the next level of person, if you will, would be our who? Our wives. For we leave our mothers and fathers' nests and we marry, right, fellas? We marry our female counterparts, which then becomes our wife. Our wife's job is to stand by her man, and that should be her only plan. Stand by her man. She is to assist us into our greatness. She is to be there for us when nobody else will. She is to sometimes enable us when our own mothers will not, because sometimes mom will show you some tough love, but the wife will step in even during those times. So we secondly feel or sense the essence of God's love or presence through our wives. The third area that we will experience our love, and some will say this is even the second, and it probably is in most cases. If we want to tell the whole truth, it is the second. It is our sisters. Our sisters are second, our wives are third. Why do we say that? Because the sisters come before the wives. So the first will be our moms, sisters will be our second, third will be our wives, and the fourth area that we're going to see our females being used to demonstrate God's love is our own daughters. For daddy can do nothing wrong. Daddy can do absolutely nothing wrong in the sight of a daughter's eyes, especially if the daughter grew up and was reared up with her father. Now, if she was not, then this statement does not apply, obviously. But if she was reared up in her father's home, she will one day marry a individual, a man that will be a lot similar or have a lot of similarities of her father, a lot of characteristics of her father. She may never say this as a girl because it's not something that she can fathom at this time in her mind. But as she grows into a woman, she will come to understand that every guy that she's ever fell in love with, or every guy that she's ever had some kind of attachment to, mirrors the characteristics of her father. Likewise, the gentleman will marry generally a woman that mirrors the characteristics of their mother. This is only true if we look back at our mother's characteristics. We can come up with it being true once we marry our wives. They will have a lot of similarities, if not many similarities, of our own mothers, our wives. They may not look the exact same, but they will have a lot of similarities. They will be relatively close in height. They will be relatively close in color. They will be relatively close in speech pattern. They will be relatively close in perception. They will be relatively close in all that they do that we have experienced from our mothers. So we are to value our women because God first used our women to demonstrate his love through. If you know your mom or know your wife or know your sister or know your daughter well enough to the point where you will do anything and everything for them, then this is how you ought and we ought to love God. Why? Because God first use our female counterparts to show himself through. If this is not a reason to show you why you should always value your sisters and your mothers and your wives and your daughters, then I don't know another reason too, because this to me is the most foundational, the most pivotal, the most crucial example that I can use. So I only use it because I know that everything else will umbrella away or off of it. This is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So the next time you see yourself or you see your sister in the street, the next time you see a lady that could have been your mom, or could have been your sister or your auntie, or could have been your daughter or your wife even. The next time you see a sister, whether it be a sister African American, a Caucasian, a Latino, whether it be a color, a culture of whomever, it is still a sister. It is still a female. It is still a woman or a young lady that God calls daughter. It is still a vessel that God uses to demonstrate his love through. So we must perceive that female or that woman or that vessel as a tool that God treasures. And there is our answer why we should value our women, because they are treasure. They are not trash. They are not to be treated as trash. They are not to be looked upon as trash. For if you do not respect your woman or your sister or your mother or even your daughter, if you do not respect these ladies, then you do not respect God, because God made them to be treasure. We are all treasure in the sight of God, but we are to have a profound respect for our women, for our ladies, for our mothers, our sisters, our wives, and our daughters, and especially our grandmothers. Aunties, I have not excluded you. This is Brother Herman of MakeEmSeeTheTruth.org. I have shortened it up quite considerably. Why? Because I am listening to the public. The public wants me to shorten it, and that's what the public gets. I hope I've answered this question of why don't we value our women. The reason why is because we don't know God. We must know God, and when we get to know God, we'll know the love of God. When we get to know the love of God, then we can agree with Brother Herman that God first uses our women to demonstrate and show his love through. That is the reason why we don't value our women, because we don't know our Creator. Stop yourselves. Get tired of yourselves. Cry out and ask for a higher way. That higher way is the only way, the Creator himself, our Holy Trinity. Please get tired of yourselves and the world's ways and cry out. If it's not your day, perhaps tomorrow, but I pray that it was today. If you wish to assist us to keep bringing these tools, these truths, these correct informations into our communities, into our diverse individuals that make up our diverse nations, then go to the homepage, click on the first link that says to assist us. Donate what you can. Know that we're going to use it to do just that, to restore values back into the community. If you need some truths, some tools, don't hesitate. Go to the third page, click on the link, fill it out in its entirety, the assessment application form. Put spiritual, legal, or medical issue as the comment or the reason why. Hit the submit button. It'll come directly to us, and we will have someone who is certified and meets all the criteria of the world, as well as or anointed and appointed by God, to make the phone call within 24 hours. God bless us all. May you have a great night, and may you continue to grow into your greatness. For that is the purpose of MakeEmSeeTheTruth.org. Thank you. May God bless us all, and have yourselves a wonderful night.